All right, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Palmucci. I have the pleasure and honor of representing Ward 4 on the City Council. First, let me thank you all for coming out. It's important that folks participate in meetings like this, what's going on in their neighborhood and the city in general. We're here tonight to discuss a proposal that somebody has to redevelop 510 Willard Street and build 32? Yes. 32 units of residential housing. A couple of just quick ground rules that I always kind of say at my community meetings. First, we're going to give these guys an opportunity to make a 10, 15 minutes. I'll interrupt them after 7, but we'll give them a couple of minutes to make a presentation so they can make their pitch, and then we'll turn it over out for folks to ask questions, raise concerns, make statements, whatever you want. We won't go, I won't go, we won't let those guys go until everybody's question has been addressed and everyone's had a chance to be heard. So I just ask that we give them the courtesy of letting them make their pitch for about 10 minutes uninterrupted with questions, and then everyone's question and comment will be taken. We won't leave without folks having a chance to be heard. Okay. The other thing is I have a sign-in sheet going around. If you'd like to sign in, that lets me know, one, who's here. If there's a question that comes up, either for them or something related to the city for me that can't be answered tonight, and I want to get folks the answers who are here, I can mail off of that list, or if you give me your email address, I can email off there. And if you sign up with your email there, I can put you on my my Ward 4 e-newsletter where I put out information about meetings and things going on in the city. I really feel like there's a third thing that I always say that I just can't remember. It's been a long week. That's John. He likes to film public meetings. If you don't want to be filmed, we can just kick him out.
Can I get a coffee?
Yeah. John actually films a lot of stuff around the city. He puts things up on YouTube. It can be quite helpful if you're interested in seeing some of the hearings and some of the things that are going on in the city. Let me just lastly say, because I've spoken to so many folks about this project in particular, and I know that there's a lot of concern about it. The way the process in general works with development like this, in Ward 4 anyways, I can't speak to what other ward councilors do, but so somebody will either acquire a piece of land or have a piece of land that they want to do something with, and they'll give me a call and they'll say, "Councilor, we're thinking about doing this on this site," and they'll say, "What do you think?" And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, that's a great idea," or, "Well, there's a lot of traffic over there. I don't know if that's going to work there." Or generally what I'll say is, I'll think of who are the neighbors that I talk to most over there and what is it that they're telling me. What do you mean? Somebody in the front row here. That's a particular project. But so I told these folks when they came to me, well, before I get to that. So what happens is a developer at that point, if I say, "Hey, listen, that's just not going to fly. That neighborhood's not going to, they're not going to go for that." It's up to the developer whether or not they want to proceed, or at that point just say, "Okay, well, do something else, or we'll buy another piece of property, whatever." The next step in the process, regardless of what I say, right? Because I never put anybody back. I'm not the king of Ward 4. I don't make these decisions. You guys make the decisions, and the folks who vote on these projects, make the decisions with your input. So I'll tell people either what I think about the project, or what I think more often what you would say about a project. So then the next step in the process, if a developer wants to proceed, is we'll have a community meeting, which is what we're doing tonight. This is just an informal meeting. This usually occurs before anybody files anything officially with the city for any type of permitting. And the reason why these meetings occur before that is, I'm in my 10th year of being city councilor, and I've done, I don't know, probably 100 of these meetings. And a good chunk of them, maybe half of them, after the community meeting, the project changed. Yeah, or another thing that happens is somebody will go away. They'll say, "You know what, neighbors don't want this, I won't even file, because it costs a lot of money, right? It costs a lot of money to move forward, whatever. So they can either walk away, or they take input. If it's a project that people have concerns about, they'll take input from the neighbors, and maybe they'll make some changes here or there, or they'll lower the number of units, or whatever. This is an informal thing that we're doing tonight, and these guys don't have to be here. Obviously, they're the proponents, but when I say I'd like to have a community meeting, because this is my request, that we're here, so that they can stand before you and you can ask questions. Because at the formal process, if they go before the zoning board or the planning board, you don't get to ask them questions. You get to ask the planning board questions or the zoning board questions, and then, or make a statement, and then the zoning board or the planning board members get to ask them questions. But you don't have that opportunity to have them stand in front of you and you ask them a question and they answer you. And I think that's so important to get better projects, right? So that's why we do this. If the project moves forward, again, this is just in a general sense. If any project moves forward, I will notify folks of any of the permitting meetings that occur. Those are all public meetings, whether it's the planning board or the zoning board. I don't get a vote on projects like this. The planning board or the zoning board do. Those are appointed boards. They don't report to the city council. So I will notify you of when those hearings are. If you want to speak, go to the hearing, just listen, or if you want to submit something in writing noting your support, opposition, indifference, or a concern you have. And I will say that in general, I have never seen a project that a neighborhood was adamantly opposed to move forward, except for one. And that was very close to your neighborhood, the West Street project. That's the only project in nearly 10 years of doing this job, that I have seen neighbors unified in opposition and a project get approved. So obviously last year, 2 years ago was better, because I could say it's never happened. It's only happened once that I've seen. So, but your participation in this process is important. It's important to what comes out the other end and what they permit. And again, that's entirely up to them. And also to the planning board and zoning board. So that being said, I think that's everything. Does someone have my sign-in sheet, my pen? Okay, all right. The pen up there too? Yeah. All right. Okay, so like I said, we're going to give them 10 minutes. Everyone's going to get to be heard, okay? Every question, every concern, I'll make sure that we do our best. I hesitate to say we, but that they answer you and that I answer you, because invariably questions come up about things that are my responsibility, right? Why is the traffic so bad? Why is parking so bad? We need stop signs, things like that. But so they're not responsible for that stuff. I'll answer those questions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the property owner's representative, Mr. Joe Rull, and he can introduce the rest of the team and the property owner and tell you a little bit about the project. Like I said, let's give him 10 minutes uninterrupted, and then we'll come in with questions, okay? Does that sound good, everybody?
That's good, Brian.
All right.
Thank you, Councilor. I'll be very quick. My name's Joe Rull. I'm from MJR Consultant, and I'm working with Michael Moore, the owner of the property, with Warren Moore, and Brian Donahue is the architect here. And I appreciate the opportunity to come out and learn and hear from you all. I know I met some of the residents out there yesterday where, Mother Nature didn't quite cooperate. We were trying to get out there a little bit early and have some of those conversations on your doorstep. I can leave my number after this meeting for additional comments or concerns. The developer's here, Michael, and he can speak to it a little himself after Brian does the presentation. We're open to hearing from you, whether, I know there's some, I've heard a little bit of some concerns, and one being, potentially open up that Lauren Street, which is not part of the plan.
Oh,
And
that's good.
yeah, I wanted to make sure we addressed that. I had a long conversation yesterday. We know that's not going to
Yeah,
happen.
I told you, not even the cable truck can come down.
You got it. So with that, I'll turn it right. Let's jump right into the plans, and then we can open up the questions.
Thanks. My name is Brian Donahue. I'm an architect in the city. This is Nick DeVoe from my office. I'm a Quincy guy. I was born and raised here. I went to all the school systems and everything. So I'm a Quincy guy. I do have a vested interest in the town, and I think it's important that we have these meetings. Now, to continue what Brian was saying, is that we have not filed to any of these boards. this is a very preliminary first meeting. We had a very brief meeting with Brian. We have not gone to the planning board. We have not filed with zoning, planning, or anything yet. This is the very first meeting that we're having, and we think it's the most important one with the people that are most impacted by things in the neighborhood. So we've been working with Michael Moore on some other projects in Quincy that were successfully completed. So he approached us with developing this site. So we took a good look at it. We looked at the zoning implications and the number of units that would make it work financially and so forth. So all these things come into play when you're at the drawing board trying to figure out what would fit and what wouldn't fit. So the proposal that we've come up with is 32 units. It's 4 floors of living with parking at grade underneath and on site in the back. So here's Willard Street, and you're all welcome to come out afterwards and ask questions and look at these floors. And it's a very deep site of about 27,000 square feet. So it's over half an acre, 0.6 acres. So it's deceptive from the street. It looks like a very small lot, but it does go very far back. And Loring Street, as you can see here, comes into it in dead ends. And there are residences along Loring Street. As Joe said, we have no intention of making that connection. As a matter of fact, we intend to re-landscape that area to create even more of a buffer to make it separated from our development. So we have 32 units. It's a mixture of 1 and 2 bedrooms, varying sizes. The plans are here in a very schematic form. We've got sort of a contemporary design on this building with a flat roof. As I said, parking under. We're using a number of materials, collaborative siding and panel systems and things that we think are attractive and fit in with the character of that street. Now, the character of that street is something that I'm sure we're going to talk about tonight, but just keep in mind that we do have 2 fairly significantly large apartment buildings and condo buildings right on that area of the strip. So when you look at ours and scale with those, it's considerably smaller. Now the building does go back almost to the corner of your name again. McIsaac House. So it's set back about 45 feet from the road and then goes 150 feet back. So we've got 4 floors of living, that's our 32. We've got 47 parking spaces. We can probably get 48. And that's a ratio of 1.5 spaces per unit, which is, according to our planning department, is kind of where the threshold is. They don't want any less than that, although some of the developments downtown, the downtown area have less parking ratios than that. So the basic plan is, at the ground level, there's a lobby, a lift, and a stair that gets you up to the first living level. And then we've got the variety of unit sizes and configurations on the main box. So I've got a number of different views here which show it from varying angles, one from the back, from the properties in the back. This is a Willard Street elevation which shows it on scale being lower than this building, a little bit higher than this apartment, obviously larger than this apartment house next door. So we just use these to show it as context, to show that it's in our minds at least, it's not unreasonably scaled for this strip, but I'm sure you'll have some things to say about that.
Would you raise your voice a little bit?
Pardon?
People back there can't hear you. Raise your voice.
I mean, that is really, in terms of the building and the architecture, that's it in a nutshell. I don't know if there's any.
These apartments or condos, I don't think you mentioned.
In terms of the actual units and whether they're going to be for rent or for sale, we can talk to, Mike can speak to that and what his intention
Going to
is.
have low income? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mike, were you gonna introduce yourself?
Yeah, Mike Moore here.
I have a question.
With regards
Yep, get to that.
to low income, the city has an ordinance on affordable housing, and we would
Yeah, that's right.
advise of that.
I'm against it right now. Ain't
I
gonna
have
get
a
my vote.
question. I have a question.
All right, so yep, you'll be first, okay?
Okay.
So you guys good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody
Do
goes.
you know if they're gonna be condos or apartments?
We haven't decided.
So he hasn't decided whether or not they're gonna be condos or apartments. I just, there's a couple seats up front if you guys wanna sit up. So, a couple of things that I wanted to mention. One is a residential C district.
Residential C and B.
Or is it C?
It's 60%.
Okay. So, so the variance that these fellows would need would be density, probably setback, and parking.
Side setbacks.
Right, sides, setbacks, and parking. So, when we were talking earlier, a couple of folks were here, and I was saying that the zoning code sets what you can build, what's allowable. The difference between the planning board and the zoning board is, the planning board is, you go there for site plan review. The zoning board, you go for variances and permission, you get a waiver from having to follow zoning bylaws that exist in the city. So, kind of like a better way to think about it is, zoning board is yes or no, right, whether you can go forward, and planning board is how you go forward. So planning board can't say no, but they can help design what the site looks like, whereas the zoning board, if you have to go to the zoning board can say no, we don't think there's a good enough reason for you to not follow the zoning code. So in this particular case, this project would have to go to both, because of the number of units to the planning board for site plan review for design standards, and then also to the zoning board for variances, which is permission not to follow the zoning ordinances in at least 3 instances. The density, which is the number of units on the size of the lot, the number of parking spaces, and then the side setbacks, which is how far it is from their nearest neighbor on the side.
How far would it be from me?
Hold on 1 second. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Okay? So I said you could go first. We'll
Well,
start
that
that.
was my
Go ahead.
question, because looking at this, the property is not wide, it's long. If you have a building that size, are you gonna have a road on each side of the building to get in the back where the parking spaces are?
No.
And you're gonna have parking underneath?
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't explain it correctly.
Because
I'm gonna speak up.
from where I'm looking at,
There's one entry and you go, there's one road in, you don't go on the sides
and
of the
where
building.
is this road gonna be? It's
Right
gonna
under
be in the
building.
middle?
Right under the building, the parking on either
It's
side.
gonna go under the building and then come up?
Not like this, just
Not
that
grade.
grade under the building and then parking spaces that are open.
So you're gonna have a tunnel, is that what you're saying?
No, it's just a parking garage. Why all parking open?
But the side of the building. So does that mean?
So it's gonna be on stilts, it's gonna be on pillars?
Yeah.
And so the bottom of it's gonna be open with all cars parked in it?
In this design, there's also,
And how
also discussed.
The only way this is gonna work is if we keep one conversation at a time.
And how close to each property line is this building gonna come? Because the property is not wide, it's just long.
It's gonna be a new fence.
A new fence.
On the condominium building side, it's 10 feet from the lot, the building.
10 feet from the condominium.
Yes. on
Well,
that
what
side.
about on the other
Okay, so
side?
we'll come back to you, okay? We're gonna move around a little bit. Some other people have
He
questions.
didn't
We'll come
finish
back.
answering my question, Brian, which is an
Which
important
one?
one, because he only answered my question to the condominium side. I want to know about the side that my family is
Okay.
on.
Right?
So,
What about on the other side?
On the other side,
What's the other side set?
it's 12 to 18 feet back, 18 feet in the rear corner where your pump sets.
so it's only going to be 12 feet, which is what, this row? That's 12 feet, am I correct? I know my
You're gonna
feet.
be in my
The
yard.
property goes back as a pie shape, so as you go back on the lot, the building moves away from the lot line. So it's 18 feet when you get back to your mom's house. From the lot, and then whatever the distance is from the lot line to the property.
That's not what it looks like to me. It looks a lot smaller than that.
Take a look at it afterwards, I'll show you exactly.
What
Sure, you got a
about
question?
on each side?
We're gonna move around a little bit. I'll come back to you, okay?
I'm doing
Sure, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just curious about, we talked about the planning board and the zoning board,
Mm-hmm.
and what the zoning board can say is yes or no,
Zoning board, yeah.
right? Or they can override the planning board's decision, right?
No, it's not, they're not like in confrontation.
Right.
Yeah, separate.
However, with the interest of the, best interest of the investors, normally the zoning board would pretty much go with the investors because it's their big picture.
So,
Because last time I was meeting here, someone is just simply just getting feedback, but yet you go back to the zoning board, it's like, okay, they say what they had to say, but we're still gonna do this because the investors have their minds already set, one way or another, eventually, if not this month, if not next year, they're gonna get their way. They're just trying to see how we feel. So we'll be back here again another 6 months or
Yeah.
another year, do the same thing and same thing. And the zoning board and the investors want this development because Quincy is expanding,
Yeah.
all right? And daily, especially Quincy Center, it's really expanding. So, a matter of, like I said, you hear from us tonight, you go back, zoning board, they can override everything, and the investors, I don't know who the investors are, outside, can we invest, can we get a
I
share?
mean, you're talking, I mean, after me, come on.
Can we invest, get a share out of this? Can we buy shares in the property? If you're gonna build in, you want to start some shares, and we'll probably get an agreement then. You know, get a piece of the pie.
It's a first.
I mean,
Well,
yeah,
our property is
hey,
going to depreciate.
I mean,
In my
Because
house,
it's
Hold on a
gonna-
second, hold on, whoa,
First of
guys,
all,
we gotta go one at a time, he's got the
the
floor, he's going
congestion,
around.
the congestion during rush hour between 4 and 6 coming down the street is horrendous.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna add these units here, it's gonna make it worse. You don't live there, you don't see what it's like. You really don't.
No, they don't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I live right around the corner, that's all I see, but,
I apologize.
yeah.
But you
I'm
see-
just happen to be standing next to it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, you see the congestion already, so
Yeah.
if you add these complexes there, it's just gonna make it much worse.
It's a very valid concern, it's a very valid concern. So I just, I'm gonna boil your comments and question down to two things. I'll let them answer the question about traffic, but in terms of the zoning board, planning board, I wanted to just clarify that a little bit. So it's a legal thing, right? It's law. So just in general, every property owner in America, you have rights, right? You have rights
I don't think
of
so.
what to do on your property, okay? You want to build something, you want to build a shed, you want to build a fence. The government can tell you to certain degrees what you can and can't do, but there's like a safety latch, right? An escape hatch. If you don't want to follow the zoning code for some reason, the law in Massachusetts says you have to have a hardship, right? And they're very specific. The case law is very, I'm a lawyer and I do zoning, so I know it, right? But it's very specific. There has to be some problem with the site, essentially. The topography, the way it's laid out, soil conditions, if there's contamination. So if there's contamination on one side of a property, so you have to build all on the other side, and therefore you're going to be closer to your neighbor than what's allowed. That's something that a zoning board can say, well, that makes sense. You have a hardship on your property, therefore you would need to do this. But they need to find a hardship. That's what they are legally entitled to do.
Pollution, those.
Yeah, there's 7 of them. There's 7 of them. But
There's a lot. you know.
right, but so I'm not going to make enough money if I follow the rules. It's not a hardship that is recognized.
Eminent
under the law.
domain is going to precede everything anyway, because like you said, it's.
Well, eminent domain is when the city would take over the
Right,
property.
right.
We're not buying the property.
Right, but they're still going to expand in the future, eventually.
Possibly. I'm going to let them address your concern about traffic.
Yeah, it's horrendous.
The congestion in the
I
area.
guess just on the first question about, being, this is what it's gonna be. I mean, we're out here to solicit ideas and feedback and hear from you. How to, shape it and to make it look and more compatible to the
Too
building.
many.
So, we're taking those suggestions seriously. So this isn't one meeting and done. We'll be back out here.
Oh, we know.
I know I've knocked on your door and I'll knock on your door again and
Yeah.
try to, get honest and real feedback. As far as the traffic, you're right, we don't live there. And it is, certainly an issue that we're in the process of hiring a traffic engineer to study how, we can't control the traffic from the highway. That's not a job that we can do. But what we can try to do is work with a traffic engineer to see what those mitigation efforts could be, knowing that there's an island where you can't take the left, to go into the property. Is that something where, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'm kind of, I want to hear from you and then from the traffic engineer, how to better get traffic in and out.
And in case of emergency, which is happening, because I am a 100% disabled veteran as well as senior and elderly who live here on Loring Street. In the wintertime, it's hard enough to come through that area for an ambulance to come down through there. It really is super hard, and that is something that really needs to be really considered because the congestion of traffic and you know, the icy roads, blah, blah, blah.
Especially when it snows, yeah.
Yeah, it's like pure ice,
Yeah.
you know, and, it has an alternative way, plan B, plan C to come up with, and just right here. I'm open to all suggestions, I'm writing down ideas, and I'm listening, you know, and it's a collective agreement that there's various other angles that need to be looked at, and seasonable also, not just the summer weather, it's change of the weather, very different, totally different in the wintertime.
Well, thank you for your input, and
Thank you.
thank you for your service. Did you have a question in the back? Will you stand up? Yeah, we'll go here, here, and then up here, okay? Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to comment on what you just said about the traffic. So where the egress is now to the street, can you take a legal left out of the property?
No.
I'm just clarifying where they're
Yeah.
located. So right now you'd have to take a quick right and then hang and just
Yeah.
wait to merge to get around. So you're suggesting that the entire island, that's something you're gonna contemplate to redesign the entire 2 blocks of traffic to
Well-
accommodate your egress in and out?
That's something that I guess what I was suggesting is that's something we're in the process of hiring we're very early in the process. We haven't hired the traffic engineer yet, but we know that's going to be an issue. That is a suggestion maybe they could come up with, or, you know, soliciting feedback from the folks that actually live there, that see the traffic and how it operates on a regular basis. You all know better than we're going to know, but a traffic engineer, you know, they'll know, and they'll have studies that they'll perform to, you know, get traffic in and out of there in an easier manner. But, I mean, that was just one of the thoughts, not really a suggestion, but that's something that would have to be studied and carefully thought out as opposed to me just sitting here, you know, spitballing. And, you know, I'm not trying to lead you astray, but there's
No, it's fine.
professionals that do that.
Validating, I assumed you couldn't take a left. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if you're considering either a different exit. Now, you've already said you're not gonna go to the side street in the back.
Yes.
Is there another way in on the back?
No,
plan?
we're
So
trying
you
to,
can't, you're not allowed to do egress underneath
the
the
upside.
expressway is on that side street.
that's not in the proposal at all.
Okay, all right, just,
Thank
thank you.
So, right back in the corner.
We actually live at 510 Willard. And we went through this a couple of years ago from the previous landlord, Martin Realty. He had an almost identical proposal, same amount of units and everything else. He even had a second proposal after that to build 2 houses on the back of the property near Lawrence Street. And both of them were shot down summarily. I want to know what's different about this that you actually think it's going to get through. Because he was shot down, and he owns property all over Quincy. And it's what he does for a living. He bought the property for the sole purpose of leveling the 2 houses and building something identical to what you're proposing. And he was shot down to the point where he immediately flipped the property to somebody else because he couldn't do anything with it. So what's different about your proposal that's actually going to get through?
And before they answer that question, I'd like to point out that Leo Martin walked away after having a community meeting.
Right.
Because he said, fine, you don't want it, I'll walk away. That's
Right.
an example of kind of the power of these meetings. So, but
Right.
I'll let them answer the question as to what's different about your proposal than what's been proposed there in the back.
I can't speak to the prior proposal, to be honest. I don't know. I heard that name for the first time yesterday.
Oh, yeah, you did, huh?
I did.
Yeah.
A couple times. So I can't really speak to that. I mean, what we're trying to do, and, you know, cities are they're expanding, and population is increasing, and the more you build, the prices do go down. They start to over time. You know, the South Shore Chamber of Commerce is calling, the studies that say it, this South Shore Chamber of Commerce is calling for more housing so that folks that want to move to the city or the outskirts of the city have a place to live.
Well, I think
Quincy's not a member of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, though.
Condo, because his condo's going up all over Quincy. Those are not cheap. They're very expensive. So that's a big difference between renting and buying a condo. And the fact that you said you didn't know which one you're going to do, I find that very hard to believe. You don't go into a project like that without knowing exactly what you're planning.
No, yeah,
That's not
quite frankly, you do.
We have to find out what we're going to build before we can determine if it's going to be a condo or a rental. But we would make that decision before we would venture towards the planning board, because we would have to.
Why don't you not have so many? Because that's a lot.
Why don't you build houses?
And I will also just say, as to, that was the other thing I wanted to say after they kind of talked to somebody and said, you know, they're going to be affordable or low income.
I didn't.
I know, I was just trying to be nice. No, but I want to be very clear that it's, So I'm a big proponent of affordable housing, okay? I mean, I am, right? There is a huge difference between affordable housing and low-income housing. And anytime I get an opportunity to stand up on my soapbox in front of, anybody and explain that difference, I think it's important to do so. So affordable housing just means it's affordable for people who live in the city, right? So people who live in the city, the median income in the city of Quincy is $60,000 to $65,000 a year. I think it's $60,000. So that means, and they say that you shouldn't spend more than like 40% of your income on housing. So affordable just means that somebody who makes $60,000 a year can afford to live in the place. So when we're asking them if they're going to build an affordable component to this, and we have a requirement on a project this size that 20% of the units would either need to be affordable on site, or they would have to pay into a fund so that the city could replicate affordable housing elsewhere in the city. Affordable is not the same as low income. Low income's an entirely different thing. I mean, there's a need for low income in the city as well, but there is a desperate need for affordable housing in the city. You think of who makes $60,000 a year, that's your teachers, that's your firefighters, that's your police. I mean, that's middle class, that's blue collar, that's what Quincy is. And when we look at what's happening, I'm going to get off my soapbox in a second, but when we look at what's happening downtown, and you were right, sir, the condos down there are going for $600,000, $700,000 a year. Someone making $60,000 a year, even a multi head of household, 2 incomes, making $100,000, you can't afford that. We're bringing folks into Quincy from who knows where.
Yeah.
Even the rentals, like Deco down near the Lowe's on Bergen Parkway, it's $2,800 for a 2-bedroom apartment. You can't afford that making $60,000 a year.
Yeah, but Brian, the thing is that.
I'm not saying this project's good because
No,
of it,
but
right?
I'm just
I'm
on the.
on a whole other
like
train,
Irma.
way off track.
Right, but we're not bringing people into Quincy. People are being forced out of South Boston because they can't pay the rents.
Oh, right, yeah.
So they're coming to Quincy.
When the first building downtown opened up, the East of Chestnut, they brought me in to show me how it looked and everything, and I saw, it must have been moving day or something. I met 3 people in the hallway moving this stuff in. And I've been saying for a long time, these aren't Quincy people moving into these buildings, right? That's what my gut tells me. And so I grabbed all 3 of them. I said, so where are you coming from? Welcome to Quincy. And it was, Charlestown, South Boston, and another woman who was paying $4,800 a month at an Avalon apartment down near the Prudential Center. And she said, it's only 20 minutes on the T, and I only have to pay $3,000 a month here. Well, that makes sense, right? So we need to be, and I'll end with this, okay? But on the city council, and as your representative, I've been advocating that we need to build housing in the city for Quincy residents. We're using your taxpayer money to build infrastructure downtown, and we're building it to support development that isn't for people in Quincy. It isn't for the people who are born and raised in Quincy. It isn't for your kids who go off to college, they get their first job and they want to come back to Quincy. They can't afford Quincy right now. And we have seniors on fixed incomes who, when the tax goes up, even when the tax goes down, right, the rate goes down. Because the values are going up, your taxes are going to go up. Because the value of the property goes up. So it's a delicate balance. I'm sorry, I apologize, I went way off track. I'm going to go here, and then there, okay? Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
He's yielding your time.
I just want to tell this guy, save your money on the traffic study. How can you study stop dead in the morning and the afternoon? The traffic doesn't move, period. And they did a study for that new apartment they did on the Rotary, and I was at that meeting, and the traffic engineer came up with a car every 3 seconds in the afternoon at rush hour. And the density of this project is outrageous. And the parking is more outrageous. Because every 2-bedroom you have to figure about at least 2 cars. The husband and the wife, and you might have 3 because the kids are coming back. Where are they going to put all the cars? They're going to want to try to park on Willard Street. You got 3 parking spaces for company in a 32-unit building? People aren't supposed to have company?
Or Hayden, or Malden. I mean, that's where they're going to park, right? Or Loring.
A lot of
You can't get by the
developments
Look
you've done
at
in the
this,
past
they're parking on the corner of Hayden and Willard. Where do they park? They park on Willard, Hayden Street. In the wintertime, you can't get up because they're parked.
Yeah, and they plow in my backyard.
So can you address do you feel that that's an adequate amount of parking? And if it ends up not being an adequate amount of parking, where do you anticipate the overflow parking to go?
I think that from the beginning, when you're looking at a
Nice
place to
and loud.
move into, but
Loud.
when you're looking at a place to move into, if there's a space and a half or a space for your unit, and you've got 3 cars in your family, you're not gonna go there. This is gonna attract people that have 1 car, and that's it.
Well, go up and look at Hayden and Willard Street, and tell me your logic is correct. Because they park all over the place. They park on the West Street side of Hayden Street. They put trucks on the West Street side of Hayden Street. They park where it says no parking. They park there. They park all over the place. Wherever there's a parking spot, they park on the Hayden Street extension. There's not enough parking.
As it is.
And during the snowstorms, they block off and they park anywhere they can. So we're blocked in to get out. Have you been in during the snowstorms? See where the city puts all the big mounds at? There's nowhere for anybody to park. And this is just gonna make it horrendous.
I'll tell the DPW to stop plowing the street.
No, it's not stop.
I'm just kidding. I know.
But they put the
Well, call me
mounds
when that
right at the
happens.
corner.
Call me when that
But during the
happens.
storm?
Everybody else does.
No, so I'm saying, project this image you're trying to sell during the storms. You have these humongous mounds, the city plows,
There's nowhere to put
and there's
it.
nowhere for anybody to park. Now, you're talking about putting up these units, and how many people are gonna get out and get in? And then you're gonna have more buses for these people
Yeah,
to
where you
get back
putting
and
the snow?
forth. During the snowstorm, are you looking at that?
It's not my project, so I'm not putting snow anywhere.
You're gonna keep our snow on site. I
Yeah,
can't speak for
I'm
the
just
city
saying,
where
yeah,
they
I'm
plow.
saying-
Well, that's a good question. You're gonna keep it on site. Where are you plowing your snow?
Yeah, it's all.
You're not, anticipating
All
big.
right, I'm gonna corral you in again, okay?
Some of
All right,
the
we're
space.
gonna corral one. Hold on. This fellow is next, then we'll go to you, okay, man?
Okay, my concern is the size of the building to the lot. Okay, now it's 150 feet long, you say?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how much space you can have between property lines? 10 feet?
12 to 18 on the right, what did you say on the left? 10.
Okay, now, God forbid there's a fire in the building. If there's something in the back of the building, I think you'd be able to access it easy. It's going to promote danger to the properties next to it. I mean, you know, if you get a fire truck back
Yeah,
there,
no, absolutely. It's a good question.
This lady's yard over here? No.
All right. So, what about emergency?
When it goes through the planning board and zoning board process, all the town departments have their input. Fire department, police department, they all have a say and they all make comment on these things. If
Well,
there's some inherent problems with it, we have the room to get the truck out. But the inherent problems come to light when the department heads ask their questions. And there's probably going to be a peer review on a project like this and requirements for it.
Let's say it's winter time, and there's a lot of snow there that they can't get through there.
You're anticipating, you don't know what you're gonna get for snow.
Okay, I mean, I know this lady here lives right next to the house that he's gonna tear down. There's nothing, that land is not that wide.
I got a car parked out in front of my house for a week. I don't know where he lived. He came down the hill and got in and went. So I don't know who he was visiting or where he was. He was in front of my house. And good thing the old man, God rest his soul, wasn't alive because he wouldn't have had any tires or windows.
Do you want to address that? So, I mean, you were saying that from your design here, you anticipate that fire apparatus would be able to access the site? So that's your answer.
A ladder truck can drive
You
through
won't
it?
get to ask questions, you only get to film. Ma'am, you had a question?
Camera,
Put the question, we'll go right there.
Where did you say you were going to put the snow?
We have some room in the back, and you have to consider that a lot of the parking is also underneath the building, so it's not going to get snowed on, it'll stay up on the roof. But there's area in the back where it'll
You're going
stay
to
on
put
site.
snow on the roof? Is that what you're saying? In the back?
Well, the building, it's gonna be on our property.
A good portion of the building is covered, so that won't get snow. The only place it'll accumulate snow is on the front and the back part.
Well, that's where I am. Where is the snow?
No,
Sir Nickel.
Where are the condominiums next door, where you're building that project? Yes. That project is going to cut off all our light, and our driveway is going to be always frozen, because we're never gonna get any sunlight over there.
Because of this? or
Yes,
because of this?
because you're gonna be blocking our
So
side.
you live there?
Yes, I live there. Yes. And aside from that, we have Section 8 housing on the other side of us. You're gonna build apartments over there. You're going to lower our value of our units because of there's apartments. I mean, and those people who can't find parking spaces over there will use our parking lot, and our parking lot is small to begin with.
Oh, those are very good questions about the light and the
And traffic,
Right.
and traffic. We cannot get out of our driveway at rush hour or early in the morning. The traffic is horrendous. Tonight, even coming home, it was horrendous. And yes, and then there was an accident, yes.
Did you have a study being asked for a study on Willard Street?
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, it's the state, so we're working with
Aside
the
from
state
that,
on that one.
there is no side streets to park on. There are no side streets.
No, there
If I'm not mistaken, Larry Street, I don't even think you can park over there anymore.
No, I don't believe you can. No.
So there is no parking in
No.
our area at all.
Yeah, I mean, you raised several very good points. The margin of error in this neighborhood for getting parking right is zero. There is nowhere else to park.
That's
It's
right.
going
There's
to
no
be
place to park.
I don't even know how it would work if you didn't have the right number. So, I mean, that's a very good point. Let's hear what they have to say about the light in the driveway and what their thoughts are on that. And then I'll touch upon your question about the value. It may not be to your best interest, but this will likely, no matter what it is, apartments or condos, it's going to increase your value. Which only means your taxes are going to go up, so it's not like it's a good thing. But from my experience, I haven't seen the values go down when a nice building, big building goes
When
down.
I bought my condo, I bought it because I had light coming through, there's trees out there, and now I'm going to have to look at another building.
Sure.
I don't want to look at another building. I don't want somebody looking through my windows. I don't want to have to shut my drapes. I don't want to have to close my blinds. I want to be able to look out and get light.
No, fair point. Let's see what they have to say about the driveway issue. I think that was. Yeah, the driveway. You're going to block the sunlight to the driveway, and they're concerned that in the winter the water's going to freeze and it'll never.
And aside from that, you don't get into light in your unit. I can take all my plants and just throw them out. Tomatoes, forget about it. They're not going to grow on the porch anyway.
We got enough, we got plenty on board.
We haven't
Chinese people want curry sauce, right? Chinese gentlemen, right? He's got a- Yeah, because I still call it curry sauce. You know, on chicken.
To the extent of which we have a study.
No, just tell him about Pat. He parks down in front of my house.
Can I go now about the snow? You're gonna keep it in the back? It's gonna melt and melt into this person's backyard? It's gonna melt into my yard and into her garage? So, and where are the dumpsters going? If you're putting the snow there, are they going back there too, so we can have rats?
What we've done on other projects similar to this is we've had a trash room in the building where everything is stored, and then it's serviced from a company who will come in and take it out.
So no
There aren't gonna be
dumpster?
barrels on the street, no dumpster with a fence.
Oh, you're not having it.
Well, what about the snow though? You think you're in a flood zone now and you wanna put snow there?
This property is not in place.
I think you better go up again.
This is the parking area here, which is 18 spaces or so, and we've got considerable green space around it to put snow.
But it's a flood zone.
That's a flood zone,
A
yeah.
100-year snow event, typically you come in and truck it out.
You get it even when it
Feet of snow.
rains.
But on a normal snowstorm, you've got plenty of room in
It's
the
built on
back of
the
that site. And like I said, this is protected, so this won't get
Well,
snow.
that's
Are they aware that there's a brook under there? There's water under
And there's
there?
that.
You aware that there's water under there?
He's got pumps in his cells, he didn't even know.
There's a brook that runs under there?
There's a lot of flooding.
But I think to answer your question a little bit more, so when you build, when you lay out a parking lot and a facility, you just don't put blacktop or tar. Like, you have to have some drainage there, and the city would mandate and put some restrictions to make sure that all of our, rainwater from the roof or from the ground is going into our, into our sewer. So it's not going into your, your.
We don't even clean the manholes. Come on.
Well, this would be on our property. This is on site. So this would actually be a lot better than the city, because we'd be in charge of it. Well, I mean, we'll throw us under the bus, so, well, yeah. But.
You had a question?
I did. You're going to just level the land, you won't be blasting to dig underneath all of the granite that's under there? And you went to all of the neighbors, but you forgot us. Our backyard connects to this property. Nobody came to talk to us.
Well, we didn't go to everyone. We started to go out there, and, well, I apologize, I missed it, and Mother Nature didn't cooperate. I got out there late, but I'd be glad to come to your property. I'd be glad to come out and talk to you a little bit more in depth, or sit after this meeting and talk to you as long as you'd like.
Okay, I know when the apartment buildings went next door, our house took a lot of damage from the blasting. Are you putting up a fence? Because like she said, the two apartment buildings, the one that's Section 8, those people cut through my yard. They drink in my yard. I have broken bottles. The apartment building next to me, I've had to call the owner because they drive over the grass to drive out my yard.
Well,
And they also park in our property.
Yes, they park in our driveway,
But then-
do drug deals, and are fantastic.
So I want to answer that question with one other statement too. So the affordable pieces that were mentioned earlier, when we say affordable, it's not Section 8. So I just want to put that out there. I think that was something I was asked yesterday.
That's fine, I'm just asking if you
No, I
put
know.
a fence.
So
To
the
stop
fence
that.
is yes. And we'd work with you
What
all
kind of
on.
a fence?
Hold on a second, we get one more ahead of you.
Oh, it was just me. First of all, I was gonna say, my family owns that little yellow house that I say the value is going to depreciate. Spoke to this gentleman, on number one, I was never, notified. It's been in my husband's family for 60 years. Our name is all on the deed and you could easily find us, so, never notified.
Well, I'll speak to that. I just wanted to do the notification for this.
Never
I
notified.
mailed out the entire precinct. A couple other people had said they didn't get
Never got
mailings
anything.
either. I don't,
It was because I saw.
we send them out
Jimmy
to,
at the gas station, he told me about it. I had
okay,
no
we
idea.
send them out, via US mail, once they leave. I don't know.
But my thing is, I was speaking to this gentleman on here down by the house. They have parking spaces, and he said the parking spaces only go be like 5 feet from like my house, because it's my house, a narrow driveway, and then it looks like it's going to be parking cars, and then as they said, snow and everything. It's like, go. Is it going to be a fence going right down the whole property line or anything, or a wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
What kind of fence?
Chain link
No,
fence?
it's not, it would be a stockade fence, a solid screen.
All
Probably
the
a
way down, because like,
Stockade fence?
my
You
fence,
put up a nice fence, you put up a stockade fence.
I mean, it's,
6 feet
well,
high.
6 feet.
Yeah, that's 6 feet. My mother's property is higher than that. So that fence isn't gonna do anything more than the fence
we
is
would be
there
open
already.
to put any type of fence around the site.
Well, there's chain link there now.
Yeah,
It was
so I
put
mean,
there
that's
years
a
ago,
6
and then
feet.
Martin put the other piece up because the city of Quincy, the plow took it down.
We could put up an 8-foot fence.
You need a 15-foot fence. That's what you need.
Stay up.
But I mean, the fence is 6 feet is there now. I can touch the top of it, standing on my mother's, that's not gonna do anything. There's no privacy there.
And the
None at
trees
all.
are coming down, the
The
back.
fence is it like 4 feet that's there now? The chain link one?
The chain link fence.
It's about, 3.5, it's roughly about here. The 6 feet would be,
Yeah.
taller than,
It's not a
taller than me.
That's not, the one down the end of the street. is
Still a
not.
stockade,
Between that
6-foot
and
fence isn't gonna do
Oh, I mean,
anything. It's not gonna
Landscape
give
and
anybody anything.
trees, so.
It's not, that's no privacy, just a stockade fence.
When you say stockade, you mean like a nice vinyl?
Yeah.
Yeah, solid. He doesn't mean like wood stockade, the cheap one that I got around my house. It's a nice one.
And we're open to
Mine is
suggestions.
down, I took mine down.
Yeah.
Looking at the plan I have in my hand, you are going to have next to no space to put snow. But my other question is, at the end of your property, there's a circular drawing that looks like it's a swimming pool. Are you putting a swimming pool in this building?
No, that's the contour, that's the grade, we'll know back there.
It's very deceiving, it looks like a swimming pool.
No, it's not a swimming.
Okay.
what's this one right here on the
Other questions, comments, thoughts?
I have, you didn't come to me yet, you afraid?
No, I thought you had just been going on your own. I mean, everyone else I'm calling on you.
No, about the traffic, you're right. There's a school crossing down there that
I know.
that you can't even get the kids off the bus. My daughter had to get in the middle of the street and go like this, and a Chinese guy went by and waved to her. Even that, you know?
Even if you remove the island, the traffic doesn't move in this direction or this way. So even if it wasn't there, you're still not going anywhere. If you ever go down there, I have to pick my mother up at a certain time and drop her off by 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
If I have to take her anywhere, because I cannot get in or out on Willard Street or Hazen Street.
Hayden Street
Or
is the
West
store.
Street.
The store.
That's how crowded it is. If something happens to her, and I'm telling you, you will not, I can't get to her. I'd have to drive over my cousins and hop over the fence. Because you can't get down, you can't get over there. It's really, really bad. It's not just people complaining. There is a problem in that section because of the rotary that goes under the bridge on the highway. It is impassable. And to put any more people there, it's just, that's why everyone is so irate.
In the
You can't do it.
Let me finish. In the back of me is an apartment house, Matt Wainwright owns it, right? Plows in my yard, he blows sleeves in my yard. And the guy said, well, where am I gonna put it? Well, my daughter went out and told him where to put it. So that's it. Then they get out.
You know, after you got me involved in that, he sued me.
He sued you?
Yeah, he had a lawyer come in and try and sue me.
Heck,
because
shit,
he was
sued
also
you.
the one who was parking over on the Hayden extension.
Right,
And when we put up the no parking signs, he sued us, saying we didn't have the right to do that, we were jamming him up. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that
I
isn't
just
the
couldn't, I don't think I ever told you that after you got me involved in that.
The guy got out of his car with a McDonald's bag in my yard. He won't put a fence up. The bushes are all dead. He said, you put the fence up. I says, I'm not gonna put the fence up. I had a tire in my yard. Now, I'm an old woman. Well, I picked that damn tire up, and I got that in his yard, right where they park. And every time something comes in my yard, I throw it back in his yard. Yeah, and I
That's why
don't
she's in
pay.
such good shape.
Yeah, no.
No, I've been there 63 years. My father built that house. My father worked hard for that house.
Yeah.
And we had a wonderful neighborhood, wonderful kids and everything.
And it's getting destroyed.
Now, you don't even know who your neighbor is.
I'll tell you, Miss, when they first said to me they had a proposal there, I go, oh, she's gonna kill me. Did I do it? I told you, there's one woman over there.
I met this
who
really
I
nice lady
fear,
yesterday who
right?
was all in favor of this
What
project.
a nice young man, nice young man.
Where you going in the back, right? Go ahead.
So basically, I
You
just
did,
want to
by the
know
way.
what's,
No,
I have to leave soon, but what's the next step? Because you basically have heard the majorities in opposition. You know,
So
when you get to the
I'll,
zoning board and all.
yeah, I'll jump in on that
so
because,
there'll be Probably
because-
too much opposition, but, so where do you go from there?
sure.
When are we gonna be notified at the next meeting? So-
Great question, great question. So I always kind of interject on that one because I don't like to put these guys on the spot. Like, they just got this information, so with the, you know, some people will tell you what they're going to do. Like, no, listen, maybe we'll go back to the drawing board, or maybe we're just going to file the way it is and we go through the process, whatever. And but I don't like to put people on the spot. They're here because I said I want to do this so that you can ask questions before they file. So it's kind of a courtesy to me that they're here. So I try to show a courtesy to them that we're not going to put them on the spot. But I will tell you when they tell me, you know, next week what they're thinking. If they're thinking they're going to file, if they're thinking they're going to change the plans, if they're thinking they're going to walk away, I'll let you guys know. And then that's what happens. So if they file, the dates are, I mean, it's mid-October. They probably wouldn't get on the agenda of the zoning board.
Time.
Yeah.
We're not gonna file. When we said we're out here to solicit ideas and thoughts, we're not gonna file. To answer the question, what we'll do is we're gonna meet internally as a team, and we are gonna solicit the feedback. We heard, you know, certainly some concerns, some we can address, some we might not be able to. You know, whatever our decision is, we'll make sure we let the councilor know, and I'll make sure, you know, you do get notified, you know, if there is another meeting. above and beyond the mailer that goes out, I'll personally go door to door I'm not gonna go for miles, but I'll try to get out there and do a good best effort to make sure, certainly the direct abutters.
Don't forget the condominium.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll put that right on my shoulders to make sure that gets done. We'll be in touch, but I think we've got some good thoughts and ideas, and try to address them as best we can.
Hold on one second. So just to wrap up on that, my job, I'm your representative, right? And I see the most important thing I do is making sure you guys know about stuff that affects you. Like, I think that is why I ran for city council in the first place, okay? And so I don't know how other ward councils do it. I don't know how people have done it in the past in other parts of the city, whatever. Nothing gets slipped in, okay? No, that doesn't happen. It doesn't work with me. It doesn't. I don't know how to tell you a story, but it doesn't, okay? So I will let you guys know. Because again, I tell you, I don't make these decisions. I don't tell these guys, yeah, that's a good project, move ahead. Or no, that's terrible, go away. That's not my job. That's your job, really, is to tell them. And, I've seen projects that someone pitches, they say, wow, I think in my head, wow, that is a terrible project. I would never want that in my neighborhood. Then we have a community meeting, and people are okay with it. And they're okay. You decide. And then I've seen other ones where I'm like, wow, that's nice. I wouldn't mind living near that. And people are like, no way. So it's up to you guys. I don't decide. So I know it's up to you. And the important part is that you have to know when the hearings are and when things go on. So
It's a shame you gotta tear houses down, though.
It's the value in Quincy, property values.
The one up on West Street was, and they were threatened when we went, and they threatened that if you didn't go through, they were gonna put a sober house up
They said
there.
that. They did.
They did. They threatened the neighborhood. We got kids, grandkids, great-grandkids that ride by. Everybody has to have a place, If they were gonna put veterans there or something, good, because veterans get them off the street, or elderly. No, but he got it in up there, yeah.
So we're gonna go right here and then back to you. Yeah.
I just have a quick question.
Sure, nice and loud, please.
As far as Willard Street and the traffic, isn't that state-owned?
It is.
So how could we possibly do anything to change the mess that's...
They would have to figure it out with the state if that was part of their
That
proposal.
will never happen.
I don't know that it would never happen.
You could take the rotary away.
Yeah, a couple Jersey barriers. I've offered to solve the problem. I know a guy with a couple Jersey barriers. We'll take care of it.
As far as, hiring somebody, we always do this. We hire somebody to look...
It's not us. It would be them, but right. Yeah.
People always hire someone to look at the traffic, and they never look at the state component.
No, but
that would definitely be part of the component. And typically the bureaucracy of the state, they have so few folks and so little work. So when developments do come in, they usually use our money to try to fix it. So that's what we're attempting. It's a tough street.
My street's not
Hold on a second. We go back here and
Basically, I was just agreeing with when she just brought up the rotary, and the state really hasn't done a fine job of the rotary as it is. It's so close to the rotary where the apartment is being proposed that I think it's just, there's no, you can't even, people that cut around that rotary, you can't get through it no matter what coming.
Can't even walk across.
You can't get off the exit, and then if people are gonna try to take a left, which I know you're saying is it's unbearable. We've tried, I've worked with the state, I've tried to make moves there, and we look at that location, because there's just no.
It's a disaster.
There's been no proposals.
It's a disaster, and it's not, your condo sounds nice, but it's just so close that it's already congested. And there's no help, nobody's helping the situation as it is, and it's going to be bad.
And the lights are there,
Lights there, there can't be stop signs there, all that should come into place, but the state won't allow it.
No, I'm talking about what she's talking about before you go up
Thank
the
you.
ramp. There's the water runs under.
And then you.
One of the other things we need to look at is the elementary school that they're going to be zoned to go to is completely overpacked already. They have over 500 students in that building, and they don't have room for them.
Is that Lincoln Hancock?
Yes.
I mean, I know you're talking about Lincoln Hancock, but that area, the kids are going to Lincoln.
They just built Sterling, they only got 100 seats. They rebuilt Sterling, the junior high school.
Very aware of it. Yeah.
And they only got 100, they only
What do you
got room for 100 more kids. With the new school, there's only 100 more seats. So in another 5 years, that'll be overcrowded.
But the state paid 75% of that tab, and they don't allow you to build for the future. You know, there's a certain number that they allow. So we could have paid 100% for it and made it, you know, 900
And
seats.
they want to build more.
But
How can you keep building if there's no place to put anybody?
We don't even have a hospital.
I'm not building, again, I'm not building, I appreciate your sentiment, like, I'm not trying to say, not my problem, I get it, I get it. I don't sit on the zoning board, I don't sit on the planning board, my first year in office, I helped draft the new zoning ordinances that are in place. I think they're reasonable when they're applied. I think they're reasonable. Sometimes they're not applied for good reason. Sometimes, you know, I have my doubts about how they're
I
weighed.
had
but-
one person tell me that people that live in apartments don't have kids. Oh, they don't have children, people that live in apartments. If there are no houses to live in, they're gonna live in apartments. whether
Sure,
they have
yeah,
kids or
no,
not.
I don't disagree with you. We have great schools in Quincy, we have a lot of parks and all that, and it's a good place to live and raise a family like y'all have done, and I'm
It's not
doing.
anymore.
It
No, it
still
isn't.
is, it's wonderful here.
No, it isn't.
All right, you
But
had a
I
question?
don't want to
I just wanted to say on the rotary, that's how we have to enter our driveway. And sometimes it's pretty hairy getting through there, especially when you're coming around and they don't realize you're making, you put on your blinker because you're going to the left versus the Blue Hills, and they don't realize that you're slowing down because you have to make another left into the driveway. And then the traffic coming the other way, sometimes you can't get through there. It's horrible.
I have to say, living across the street from where this is proposed my entire life and right up behind it, this is one of the worst proposals I've seen in a long time because we put up with the other apartment houses being put up.
Yeah.
Now you have a long, narrow lot and you want to stuff it like a sausage
Exactly.
with another building. I feel badly for you, but it's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. We're going to have no single-family homes left in West Quincy at the rate it's going.
You're right.
And they just add to the population, so many people. It's putting a burden on the taxpayers. These apartment houses aren't paying what they should
Get a tax
proportionally.
break from the mayor.
And pretty soon, if they keep building all these apartment houses, we're all going to get up some morning. We're not going to be able to flush our toilet because it's not going to run out, and we're not going to get water out of our faucets because the city's not equipped to handle all this building. They've got a big project with sewage line and water lines up off of Center Street now. It's aged. They're small. It can't take this volume. We're going to have a lot of problems. It's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And these people aren't taking the burden of the tax money.
They would pay taxes, like, whatever they're assessed at. That's the tax rate or whatever your home's assessed at.
Well, if that
So
were
it
the
does add
case,
to-
with all the apartment houses they've built
Yeah.
in West Quincy in the last few years,
down.
my taxes should have stayed the same.
That's right.
But the values are rising, and not just rising in West Quincy or Quincy, they're rising in Braintree or Milton. I mean, it's the state. People are coming to Massachusetts.
Perhaps you're aware of legislation that I filed recently in the council that would give every every resident homeowner of Quincy a tax break if we only taxed the 10 largest apartment buildings in the city as commercial properties, because they're not residential properties like yours are. If we change that, we'd have an extra, I think it's like $18 million in tax revenue, which would fund a tax break for everybody who owns their home and lives in it in the city of Quincy of $500 to $800.
Oh,
And I read
Call
that.
your 3 at-large councilors, tell them
And
to support
thank you for doing
my
that.
ordinance. They got it in the city of Boston. The night we raised the tax rates the last time, which I voted against, the night we did that, the next day, there was I point to him, he knows people in Boston, but he used to work for the city. But anyways, the next day, in the front page of the Globe was, mayor gives every resident of Boston a tax break. I think it was like $500 or something, based on all the new development going on. And I said, well, gee, what the hell's going on? Where's the benefit of the development to the people who live here, who support the development? Which is, again, what I was saying about downtown. We gotta do things for Quincy residents. You know, it's nice to have development, it's nice to have new projects, it's nice to have new growth in the city, but it's gotta be done in the right place, and there has to be a benefit to people. It can't make quality of life worse for the people who have been here. So, I mean, and it's up to you to decide how this project plays into it, right? I mean, and he's doing this to make money, right? Nobody has a problem with that. You know, you cut into his profit a little bit, maybe to do less units. Maybe cut into his profit a little bit, and they don't like this. I'm getting fielded. To say, you know, do some, right, to do some different mitigation, right, or higher fences, or, you know, everything's on the table with these kind of things,
Everybody
right? So,
gets new roofs, everybody gets
this is
new
what I'm
siding
talking
on
about,
Logan Street.
but that's what you're going to talk about, right? Is there a benefit that can be had from new growth in the neighborhood? Maybe not. Maybe this isn't the right project. Maybe it is. But that's kind of what the discussion. Anyways, when I look at new growth across the city, that's, to me, new growth is opportunity, right? It might not be a good fit, so maybe you don't do it, but it's okay. Well, if somebody wants to build something here, can we fix a problem that would improve quality of life and not add to any problems by doing this? That, to me, is how I measure whether or not a project is a good project or a bad project, right? I mean,
This is the third try. The daughter tried once, and of course Leo tried the second time.
You took care of him.
Leo was greedy.
Yeah.
Not Leo Martin.
Huh?
Not Leo.
Oh, Leo Martin, no. You know, what do
You have to
mean
give him
Mr.
credit for listening to you,
Him,
though,
what?
right? You gotta give him credit for listening to you. And, I mean,
I don't know,
call him when you want, but you talked to him, he listened, and he did what you told him to do.
Yeah, and then, he tried what he didn't believe a lot of things I told him, then he found out himself about Loring Street.
You straightened
He
him
found it
up.
out. I said, you didn't do your homework, and he just thought he could schmooze me. Look, you don't schmooze me, let me tell you.
I know.
No. No. It's just,
Well, we didn't even know that man had sold the property to this gentleman.
no, because that man,
He said he wanted that house back there for his
Yeah.
daughter and his grandchildren.
and he said he
because it
would
was a
never do
beautiful,
that, I
safe
never
yard.
do that, Mrs.
And that was a
Newman.
lie.
I will never sell, I will rent.
Yeah?
Good
and that was a
Catholic,
lie.
good
Lie.
Catholic man, God bless him.
That's another
Hallelujah.
thing, it's nothing against you people, but everybody that's bought this property has lied so much that no one trusts anybody anymore. And we're just all packed in there like sardines, and they're all older. And it's getting very difficult for people to die in their homes. Is that a good way to
Well, that
put
was
it?
another thing they said, they were all
It's
old,
very
they
hard,
were
and they don't
dying.
want to leave their houses, they're old. Would you, if your mother was 90, would you want her to leave her house? If she wanted to stay there and die there? No.
Well, I ain't 90.
Well, you know what I mean now. But they don't want to
For the record, she's not 90. I want to make sure everyone in the back.
Only had on.
She's not 90. She doesn't
They
need
want to
extra.
die in the homes that they built, they worked for.
Yeah. No, the one lady that was at the meeting for Martin, she said we were all old, we all gonna die sooner or
Yeah.
later.
I don't remember. I was at the meeting. I don't remember that.
Oh,
That
I
doesn't mean-
remember.
Right. Yeah.
I think she died sooner.
She's lucky. She's lucky.
Oh, she
left
said.
early.
Okay.
She left with her coach.
She left early.
Any other questions, concerns? We can break up informally. You come up, look at the plans, ask me questions, or ask these guys. Okay, what do you? Last one. You.
To this gentleman here,
I want to ask you,
where do you live at? He lives in
It's not important where I live.
None of my questions, but what I'm trying to get to.
I don't live in this neighborhood.
Okay, what I'm trying to get to is that when the next storm comes, or happens, snowstorm, right? Try driving through here for the next traffic jam.
Our office has been in Quincy for 60
Okay,
years.
well,
I've
what, I
driven
mean,
that street
this
a
particular
thousand
area,
times. I
and
know what it's
see how
like.
congested it is, a lot of snow pushed back up and everything. You're talking about putting a apartment building there, and it is like the woman said, all the vegetation's gonna come down. You're gonna build a concrete jungle
Yeah.
for a
And in 10
building
years,
for
it'll be
you,
ghetto.
and we're gonna have solar power in place of vegetation. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, you're just gonna.
You're talking to me, but
I'm
we're up
being a
there as a, we're up there
visionary.
as a team.
I'm being a visionary person. I'm being a visionary. I'm saying, come and experience the winters, you know, at least after a snowstorm, try to drive in, try to find some parking, and say, well, it's an emergency. Can I do this? Can I do that? Just ask simple questions. Like I said, to make your appointment. appointments for vehicles who can't or won't come down the street because it's too icy or dangerous or too congested to the VA hospital for senior veterans and disabled vets. The vehicles won't come down. So, you know, there are legitimate questions during adverse weather conditions.
I mean, I can't speak for the conditions of the road. I think, you know, Public Works does what they can to try to solve it.
I'm just saying the mountains need to be falling. They're stacked.
No, I understand that, and I can't solve that, I can't make it stop snowing. All we can do is control what we have here and maintain our snow, just,
It's gonna add.
I'm sorry, you asked a question, I should at least get you to answer that. Thank you. All we want to do is control what we have, just like the snow that's in your yard, you control that. As far as the character of this developer, when I say control it, you keep your snow on your property.
No. I'm talking about community fooding area, period, to get to my residence and back. Or if I wanna go across and see her, we can't get over there because they put a big mound right there between us. And we have to help each other dig out to get up the street, which the city never came down and plowed. I got a truck with a plow in front, I'll plow her and the whole street right there just to get out because the city didn't show up after a storm. So what I'm saying is, take a day after a storm, and just drive through the area to see what it really looks like. And even here, you know, just take a good look instead of what's on paper and look at the reality of things.
I know, I understand, and I will take you up on that. Hopefully it's not snowing for a long time, but I will take you up on that. I can speak to this gentleman's character. I've worked for a lot of developers, and he's by far the best developer I've worked for.
I have no problem.
But I just want to speak to that.
Come down to our level.
Yeah.
And see what it's like, the most basic things, trying to get emergency services, city, things, whatever. It won't back down the street. And like I said, the vegetation, if they want to use solar panels, cut down all the trees, and put them on concrete walls, put a neighbor. I mean, you know, it's the investments.
I get it. No, there's no concrete. I mean, it's a nice design, and we continue to work. It's not concrete.
Actually, it is a nice design in Somerville.
Yeah, you know, like I said,
Because that's what it looks like to be Somerville.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm gonna break up the formal kind of question and answer, but we don't have to go home. Come on up and kind of more casual. No, hold on a second. I'm gonna break it up and then we'll go.
I don't want to ask you a question.
You can ask a question, come on up, but I want to first, you know, before we break up and talk individually, thank everybody for coming. And like I said, I'll notify you if the project moves forward and there's a zoning board or a planning board hearing, or if there's any changes to the plan that they want to communicate out. So thank you all for coming in. You'll stay up here and I'll stay up here. Ray, you can come on up and ask a question. Yeah, absolutely.
I got a
Come
question
on
for
up.
you.
Come on up.
Would it be inappropriate to ask for an informal show of hands, how many people are actually opposed to this project?
I don't. Sure, go ahead, you
Just
can
so they have
ask.
an idea.
Sure, you can ask. Go ahead.
Everybody opposed to this project?
Project's too big.
Hey, you didn't let me ask my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Spend a lot of money.
Well, come ask one-on-one.
Can we, take
Just want to know how tall the building was.
That wouldn't help.